Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Something Else podcast. Wow. That is one of my worst nightmares because it just happened to me is realizing that your whole sound situation just stops recording. Anyways, I mean, that's one of the perils of, you know, YouTube University and getting your skills from there because you just don't know. So, today, well, what I was talking about before that whole mishap happened, I wanted to talk about valuable alone time. And if I didn't mention it already, my name is Gabrielle and I'm your host because this is take two at this point. And I wanted to talk about valuable alone time. And I love this topic. I love alone time. I love solitude because if our good Lord could go away and be quiet and be still, we can be quiet and be still. And I think there's value in your alone time. Just being completely still, just being completely quiet, and really just being present in that moment. I went to Canada, what will be last week when this comes out, and there were some moments where I had time to just be completely alone, just be by myself. And I went to this one particular park. I'm going to see if I could put the picture. And I had a moment where I was just so completely just still and quiet. I was just able just to just be completely just take a deep breath. You know, sometimes you need to take a deep breath. You need to be completely still. You need to be completely quiet because there's so much noise in our life. There's noise at the job. There's noise in our home. There's noise on social media. There's so much noise that we find ourselves constantly being jittery. We have to constantly be stimulated with something. If it's not social media, we're on the phone talking. If we're not on the phone talking, we're at the workplace talking. There's not a moment where we could just be quiet and just be completely at peace. And if our good Lord had to make time to go away from the multitudes, away from the disciples, to pray alone to his Father in heaven, we could do that same thing. There's value in just being to yourself and just being at peace. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna just isolate yourself and be in a like a hermit and away from people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being alone for the sake of just stillness. With good intentions. With intentions to recuperate, recalibrate, and refill yourself. When we find ourselves like a lot of the time needing to always be around people, there's no stillness. There's no stillness because someone has to always be talking to you, stimulating you because you're afraid to be alone. A lot of people hate complete dead quiet. Me, I'm the type of person I can sleep in a completely silent room and it can be completely dark in there, like no light, and I will be fine because I enjoy stillness. I enjoy quiet. Even sometimes when I'm with my friends on the phone, I'd be like, girl, let me call you back. I'm gonna call you back, bro. Like, I just need to be quiet and I need to be not stimulated at all right now. I just need to be, shut it off. A lot of us have an internal voice, and this internal voice will be digesting thoughts, be digesting concepts. I mean, the internal voice just keeps going and going and going. And sometimes you just need to turn that off because even that is noise. That's why when I pray particularly, I say, Lord, any voice that is not yours right now, silence it, including mine. Because your brain is like talking to you and digesting thoughts and you have to literally command your whole being to be focused on God. That's where self-discipline comes into play. Self-discipline is important, especially in your alone time, because you need to command your whole being. Let's be present right now. We're present here. if you notice sometimes, like when you're praying or like you're worshiping God, you start thinking about the bills, you start thinking about what you're going to eat, you start thinking about 10, 15 years ago how that person ain't give you back the $20. Like you just start thinking about a bunch of things that have nothing to do with you being in the presence, in the fullness of God. And I'm guilty of that, because when we worshiping, and I can worship now, I love it, but after a while, and the Lord is working on this with me, I'm like, when we gonna eat? I love the Lord. When we gonna eat now? I'm a little hungry. And it's like, God deserves more than that. He deserves more than that for me. So I think being able to train yourself in secret and being able to be still and finding your time to be alone is important. You will find your best ideas in alone time. You'll find your best inspiration in your alone time, when you're just by yourself, because that's when God has the time to speak to you. So if you're watching this, I want to encourage you, value your alone time. Maybe it's 30 minutes. Maybe it's an hour. Maybe if you're single, it's more than that. Value your alone time. Even if you're a mom, you're a dad, you have a family, it's sometimes harder to get alone time when you have a family. I know that for sure. But I want to encourage you, be intentional about maybe taking a solid 15 or 30 minutes while your kids are sleeping, or maybe they're occupied with something, to just get alone for a few moments and just be completely still. And stillness is not disassociating on TikTok, disassociating on Instagram, because I'm good for that. A lot of the times when my coworkers will come to me like, "Oh, Gabby, what are you laughing at? What do you do?" I'm disassociating. I'm like disassociating for a moment, especially if I just dealt with a client who was really stressful. I am disassociating. I need to disassociate from that hellacious situation that just happened. And I think about the word of the Lord saying, go to the Lord in your secret place. Shut the door to your heart. And if I'm paraphrasing, forgive me. I'll put the verse down here. But shut the door to your heart and pray to the Lord in the secret place. In the secret place, in secret, on your knees with the Father, and talk to God. Be alone with God. When you value your alone time, you find peace. You find peace. Alone time needs to be effective. There needs to be peace in that moment. When you get comfortable with being alone, when people start to come into your life with noise and to disrupt the peace, you can easily just say, wait, hold on, wait a minute now. Back it up. I'm good for that. And maybe I'm a little too good for it, but the moment I feel like my peace is being disrupted, I'm like, okay, let me take a step back, and I need to reevaluate where you're going to be in the circle. Because when you're a person that values people's opinions, and I value people's opinions, and I actually will take what someone says into consideration if it's good counsel. If it's coming from a bad place, or it's coming with negative intention, and you let it too close to you, it could actually tarnish you. So for me, once I begin to perceive that it's like, maybe this person doesn't have the most clearest intentions. They possibly mean well, but this is not well intentioned. I withdraw. I'm like, okay, well, let me go to the drawing board, and let me figure out where you're going to be now. Because I want to keep you in my life. I desire to keep you in my life, but I also have to protect my peace. And peace is expensive. When you got into the point where you have fought and you have done the work to have peace in your life, when people come in to disrupt your peace, you're good to start rearranging things. You're good to start figuring out, okay, where do you need to be actually? Because if there's a disruption of peace, that means something is out of place. So when you find peace, you find organization in your life of where people and things need to be. So that's really important, because when we don't value our alone time, we find ourselves putting people and things in places to fill a gap because we don't want to be by ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with being by yourself. Nobody likes to feel lonely because loneliness can lead to despair. Loneliness is a very empty feeling, and I don't wish that on anybody. But solitude is important. Solitude is a moment of just being just yourself. You need to be by yourself for a moment. For a moment. There's nothing wrong with just being like, I need some time, girl. Just give me some time. I'm going to be back. I just need some time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, bro, look, I just need to chill. Like, I'm going to hit y'all up. I'm going to come back. I just need some time to just be. I just need some time to be. That's why a lot of us were like, oh, God doesn't speak to me. I don't hear God speaking. The Bible says that God speaks to man. Now, whether man can perceive it or not is something completely different. God is speaking to you. He talks to you. He's ministered to you. Whether you can perceive it or you know it, that's your issue. You don't know. He has spoken to you. And a lot of the time, the Lord speaks to us in our alone time. He speaks to us when we're one and only in his presence. That's where he's speaking to you. That's where he's ministering to you. Because he knows he's gotten you by yourself. There's no noise around you. So he can meet you one-on-one. So your alone time is valuable. I was encouraging one of my guy friends. I was like, bro, like, you should take a trip and just by yourself. You don't got to go out of the state or nothing. You don't got to go out of the country. Maybe drive maybe 2 or 3 hours up north and just like chill out a spot. Just walk on the beach. And we live in Florida, so there's beaches all over here. Parks. Like, take some time for yourself. Just rest in some solitude. You're going to feel recharged. You're going to feel rejuvenated, because a lot of the way, why we feel drained is the noise that's around us that's sucking the life out of us. When that noise is silenced, then we feel recharged. Why? Because the thing that was draining us is no longer pulling from our source of power. So allowing God to recharge you in a place of stillness, in a place of aloneness, in a place of solitude and quietness is important. Sometimes you need to tell your whole entire being, just be still. Like that's just be still. That's where the discipline comes in. Because even I have to tell myself, shut it up. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Just be still. So that's very important. This is a very impromptu episode, mainly because I recorded a whole episode. I'm over here yapping and getting to it, and I see the thing stop recording. I said, but God in heaven, wait a minute. But the meat of the matter of the fact is your alone time is valuable. So if you're watching this episode, food for thought, enjoy your alone time. Just enjoy it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us at the Something Else Podcast. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. And we're on YouTube, of course. I will see you in the next episode. But until then, stay safe and stay healthy.